Welcome to What a Creep, the show with Margot Donahue and Sonia Mansfield talking about creeps from the past to the present.
This is your quick guide to the biggest creeps, jerks, assholes, and losers, the best of the worst.
From two nice ladies who want the world to be a little less creepy.
Welcome back to What a Creep. This is Margot Donahue, and my cohort in creepitude, as always, is the amazing Sonia Mansfield. Hey, Sonia.
Hello, my friend.
Hello, my friend. We have a super-sized creep today.
Mm-hmm.
We've been asked about this asshole for a long, long time.
Since the start of the show.
Yes, we have been asked this for a long time. I guess I'm giving away something. We use salty language in this program, so just to prepare you.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. So this is also, we should say, trigger warning. This is going to be an intense episode. This guy is a real bad dude. So
yeah.
Take care of yourselves.
Yes.
We are the podcast that talks about creeps from the past to the present. This guy is somewhere in hell, thank goodness. But we always end the episode with someone who's not a creep. We actually have, Sonia, two creeps today, because non-creeps today, excuse me.
Oh, okay.
To counteract this jerk. So
good.
We balance it for all of y'all. I'm based in New York. She's based in San Francisco. You can find us on Facebook. We do have a basic Facebook page, but we never check it. It's a place where people usually go just to complain about our language. The best place to interact with us is in our Facebook group, where we talk about creeps and non-creeps. We talk about creeps in the news. It's a nice, safe place. But if you want to join us there, you do have to answer 3 questions in order to join. So it's the What a Creep podcast group. We are on Twitter at CreepPod because somebody had What a Creep on Twitter for 10 years and never used it.
Creep.
And we're on Instagram at What a Creep Podcast. And we have an old-timey email if you want to reach out to us, whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. If you would like some stickers, send us an email and we'd be happy to drop them in the mail for you wherever you are on the planet of Earth. We will send them to you. I owe people emails, and I also owe them some stickers. I will get them out to you in the mail. I'm doing a mail run next week. Not mail as in a man run. I mean, I'm not opposed to those, but I'm actually going to the post office, a place I really hate to go, but I am going to be doing that next week. So
You're looking for a little mail enhancement.
Ayo.
Oh, hashtag dad jokes.
Do you want to tell them about our website, Sonia?
Yes, you can go to whatacreeppodcast.com, and it's everything you ever wanted to know about the show, but we're afraid to ask. It has links to all of our episodes, and in those links, it has our show notes because we source every single thing that we talk about. We're not making this shit up. We want to give credit to the people who did the work. So do that. Go to the thing. There is a link to our merch shop if you would like t-shirts or tote bags or journals, whatever you like, mugs. I am going to be designing some new merch that says the high road can get fucked. So that is happening. And there's also a link to our Patreon page. You want to tell people about that, Margot?
Yes, I do. The first 4 seasons of our show are behind the Patreon wall. We also put out 2 bonus episodes there, and we put out a newsletter, and Sonia writes a great newsletter every month for us. So,
thank you.
And we also, it's just a place to help us, pay for putting the show together. We really appreciate everyone who joins us there. Kira, Amanda, Catherine, Melanie, and Yeshan, thank you all so much for supporting us. You're amazing. And we totally understand if money is tight and can't afford to do that right now. We totally get it. If you could just tell a friend about the show, ask for stickers, put it on your laptop, or leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. And I'd like to thank the following people who left us 5-star reviews in Apple Podcasts: Joanne CV and Dog Lover Tara. Y'all are amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Also, Spotify, you can leave stars nowadays, and also Good Pods everywhere else. Once again, just tell a friend, or seriously, just enjoy it all by yourselves. We're happy to do it for you. Seriously. We do this for free. no matter what.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't feel like fun this week,
This one's a tough one, but seriously,
but usually.
we'll end it on a fun note. I promise you.
Yes.
I'm going to do
Yes.
another impersonation for you guys.
Ooh, I love impersonations. All right. Shall we do this thing?
Did we get through everything?
I think we did.
All right, Sonia.
All
Who's
right,
our asshole?
I've put this off long enough. We are going to be talking about Jimmy Savile. Savile.
I used to say Savile like the first
It's
year
not
we were on the air.
Savile. It's Savile. My bad. No, I was going to mispronounce it, because I have to. But trigger warnings, obviously, sexual assault and sexual abuse, a lot of it. So take care of yourselves. Maybe, this is not the episode for you. I have a list of sources here. There's a British horror story on Netflix, The Other Side of Jimmy Savile.
Sorry.
Jimmy Savile, Crimes That Shook Britain, Season 5, Episode 1, the BBC, The Guardian, Grunge, The Conversation, Britannica, Operation U-Tree, which I think that's how it's pronounced, and then Wikipedia. Jimmy Savile was a British DJ and television and radio personality. He hosted a bunch of shows on the BBC, including Top of the Pops and Jim'll Fix It for decades. This made him a household name. He was known for his platinum dyed hair and later his tracky tracksuits and the big cigars, and he was also a well-known good Samaritan. He raised millions for charities all over the country. But after his death in 2011, he was revealed to be one of Britain's most serious sexual predators. Over several decades, he abused more than 600 boys and girls, some as young as 2 years old.
Jesus Christ.
He did this in the BBC's broadcasting studios. He did it in hospitals, children's hospitals, reform schools that used to be a thing. He did it all across England. Some allegations were made while he was still alive, but they were dismissed and accusers were often ignored or disbelieved. He's a super creep. The story is brutal. There are so many victims. It's really upsetting. He preyed on the most vulnerable people, including children, patients in hospitals, people who should feel safe and protected. I mean, we all should. We all should feel safe and protected, but especially these people in these most vulnerable positions, the children ones. This is going to be tough. And I'm not going to lie, I was drowning in this one, So I put on my little content designer hat and asked myself, what is the job to be done here? So it's to make it clear what a fucking monstrous creep this man was. And I tried to organize it for everyone because I can't just list out everything he did, in our usual runtime. This would be hours and hours and hours long. So here's how I broke it up. I'm going to tell you who this fucking creep is. I'm going to share a few stories and details about the fucked up shit he did. I'm going to explain how he got away with being a creep for so long, thanks to being famous with powerful connections. And then we're going to talk about, finally how the truth came out. And we're going to do it like we always do. We're going to start at the beginning. So James Wilson Vincent Savile was born October 31st, 1926 in Leeds, England. Halloween.
That's a cool birthday.
It is a cool birthday. Fucking creep.
Yeah, he doesn't deserve it.
He doesn't. He was the youngest of 7 children. It's a lot of fucking kids. As a teenager in World War II, he worked in the coal mines, during which he was injured in a mine explosion, and that forces you to change careers. Mm-hmm. He recovered, and he started working as a dance hall manager and a disc jockey. According to his autobiography, he says he's the first disc jockey ever to use 2 turntables and a microphone.
Oh, sure.
He says, that's not true. It's not true. I'm like, whatever, fuck off. It's just one of the many things he lies about, right? Eventually, he became a DJ at Radio Luxembourg. Y'all know I'm going to mispronounce things. He worked on a pirate radio station called Radio Caroline, and then BBC Radio 1. And then, of course, he hosted Top of the Pops and a children's show called Jim'll Fix It. And that show was on for almost 20 years. He's the BBC's biggest star. He was featured on a ton of primetime shows. I was trying to think of the American equivalent, and I was thinking maybe Dick Clark would be kind of the equivalent. Okay. I'm like, I don't think Dick Clark was like a character like this guy, but someone who was always on TV for like 5 decades, and you were just like, yeah, Dick Clark. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
He's always on. As far as I know, by the way, Dick Clark didn't rape hundreds of people. I'm just saying, like, I was trying to think of the fame or something. So here's the section I'm calling, let's get into some of the fucked up shit he did. He sexually assaulted people wherever he went at the BBC. He did it in corridors, kitchens, dressing rooms. He did it at the studios, the BBC Television Theatre, the Broadcasting House, Television Centre, Lime Grove Studios, and other studios all around the UK. His usual tactic, his thing, was like grooming young girls and boys. He would, by inviting them to watch him perform on the set.
Oh, Jesus.
And then he would take them to his dressing room and assault them.
Ugh. Ask for a massage?
Probably. Ugh. Fucking creep. One time, a junior employee at Television Center complained to a supervisor, this was in the 80s, that she had been sexually assaulted by Savile, and she was told to, quote, keep your mouth shut. He's a VIP. So, after the allegations went public, which, by the way, spoilers, all the allegations came out, but not until after he was dead.
Right, but a lot of people knew before. Yes.
So after he died, the BBC did an internal investigation, and here's some of the things they found. Victims of Savile in connection with his work at the BBC included 8 people who were raped and 1 instance of attempted rape.
Oh, Jesus.
He sexually assaulted many others. An underage girl who was on the Top of the Pops. I keep wanting to say Tops of the Pops, so no. I keep stuttering over it. It's Top of the Pops. Set in 1969, told a member of the floor staff that he assaulted her, and then she was ejected from the building.
Because she was the problem.
Yes. He also assaulted a 17-year-old girl on camera on the music show in 1976. And after she complained, she was brushed aside and said that Jimmy was just fooling about, quote unquote.
He was handsy.
He's handsy. That's
He's
what
a
you
flirt.
get.
What's your problem? You're in a mini dress. You asked for it.
Yes. A majority of the cases took place in the 70s, but he did come back and film the final episode of Top of the Pops in 2006. He was 79 at the time, groped an underage girl on the set.
Of course he did. What an asshole.
Yeah. Singer and TV personality Colleen Nolan said that he invited her to a hotel when she was 14.
Ooh.
Yeah, she had been involved in recording a song at Top of the Pops, and obviously that made her super uncomfortable, but you didn't talk about things like that back then, right? She said. All in all, BBC interviewed 117 witnesses. They had heard rumors about him. Some mid-level executives had been aware of the things he had done, but there was like no evidence that like the BBC as a corporate body, quote unquote, had been aware. So it's like all these people knew, but nobody was doing anything about it.
Because there's no system in place, and there's no, and nobody's encouraged to do it. because he's the star and he's the big deal. So,
yes.
and it's a public company, by the way. Like, the people pay for it.
Interesting. I hadn't really thought about that.
BBC One. I always think of Mike Myers as Austin Powers. BBC One, BBC Two.
One. So this fucking creep hosted a show called Jim'll Fix It for almost 20 years. And this is a show where he granted wishes to children. Like, they would write letters and they'd be like, I want to fly.
Stop assaulting people, sir.
Yeah, would you please? And they're like, surprisingly, those letters never made it to air. It was like kids who were like, I want to fly a helicopter, or I want to meet somebody, or, you know, shit like that. Obviously,
I want to dance with somebody.
They
with
want to
somebody
dance
who
with,
loves me.
Loves me. I love you. He's a fucking creep.
Yeah.
It was the perfect cover for him to be around kids.
Yeah,
And-
they do that,
and
by the
here's-
way. Yeah.
Yeah. And here's this thing. He would pretend to people that he hated children. That was, and he would he would do interviews. Like, I saw some interviews and he was like, I think all children should be eaten at birth. You know, it's just like, I fucking hate kids, blah, blah, blah. But it was just to throw people off. Like, he really wanted to have sex with kids. He wanted to assault children. Like, and so he would act like he didn't like kids.
He acted like he wasn't interested, but he was really a pedophile.
Yes. So Savile actually sexually assaulted students at 4 different schools, where he was invited as a guest after featuring one of their students on Jim'll Fix It.
Oh, God.
And as he got more famous, he did more fundraising for charities and hospitals. And he was really well known for this, apparently. Like, he did interviews, he raised all kinds of awareness for all these different charities. He raised 40 million pounds. You know, I assume pounds, by the way, because we're not in Britain, not dollars. But in particular, hospitals like Leeds General Infirmary, Broadmoor Hospital, and this Stoke Mandeville Hospital. I'm sorry, if I get it wrong, I'm really sorry. And these charities, these hospitals, they depended on him. He was so good at fundraising and raising awareness that they would grant him board positions and unrestricted access to
Patients.
Jesus, he literally had keys to every room in those hospitals.
Why the fuck did he need keys to rooms?
Right? Nobody seemed to question.
Fuck would you give him keys?
Nobody questioned why he would want access to restricted areas, or if they did, they didn't do anything about it, or nobody listened. And
he was the fundraiser.
Yes.
Oh my God. Those poor kids.
Yes. And a staff nurse at Stoke Mandeville, I hope I'm right, said that he was a nightmare. She said,
he was.
I bet. She said he was vile, that when he would show up, an alert would go out and all the nurses would run. They would just hide from him. And I was like, you should be protecting your patients. I'm not saying throw yourself in front of them and get sexually assaulted either, but also. But
that's his way of also getting to them. It's being really gross and sexually aggressive towards them. Yeah. And then he could get to the kids.
You know what? That came out wrong. I'm not blaming anybody.
No, but it's a tactic.
Let me rephrase that. Actually, I'm there are people to blame, but not nurses that he sexually assaulted. I apologize. No, I think that came out wrong.
Right, but I think that's his tactic. I'm just going to be really, aggressive with them.
Yes.
That the first line of defense.
Yes.
And then get what I want.
Yeah. Exactly. And he started volunteering at the Stoke Mandeville Hospital in 1968. It's super weird. I watched that Netflix documentary. It's super weird that a celebrity's I work as a porter at the hospital and I have keys to stuff here and I fucking spend the night here sometimes. And it's why? Why do you do that? It's fucking weird. So while he was there, volunteering over the years, he abused more than 60 patients, staff, and visitors
Oh, Jesus.
at the hospital. Y'all, it's really upsetting. And some of the victims included an 8-year-old boy, an 8-year-old girl, a pregnant mother in her 20s.
Oh, Jesus.
A 20-year-old woman who was paralyzed in a wheelchair.
Oh, no.
And almost half the victims were under the age of 16. He would prey on the most vulnerable people.
And you're in a vulnerable space when you're in a
Yes.
hospital anyway.
Yes.
You're already not feeling great. You're already...
Some of these people couldn't fight him off if they wanted to.
Right. Of course not.
And they did, I'm sure, want to. He would watch female patients as they did mandatory clothing changes in front of staff.
Oh, no.
He would stand in the doorway of the restroom as the women showered, and he would make inappropriate remarks.
How the fuck is this guy allowed to do this?
I know. A 12-year-old girl was raped in the television room, and as she told a nurse, and the nurse told her not to tell anyone because the nurse would get into trouble.
Oh, Jesus.
And then he showed up at the girl's room that night and did it again. In 1980, a clinical supervisor tried to raise concerns. She went and told people, and she was reprimanded for interfering.
Is that what they call it?
Yes, interfering. Yeah. So it was just an open secret that he did these things. And between 1972 and 1985, there were 9 informal complaints and 1 formal one. But none of the complaints were ever taken seriously. They were never escalated to management. Nobody did anything. And like I said, he had in one of those hospitals, literally he had a bedroom/office there. Why?
Sick motherfucker.
Why would he fucking need that? It's at these hospitals, he raped, he sexually abused and sexually assaulted staff and patients between the ages of like 5 years old to 75. And he did it over like 4 decades.
Oh my God.
This dude is a fucking monster. So he would raise money for these hospitals and they would protect him basically because of this. Mm-hmm. He also raised money for schools that had for the schools that were for troubled kids. I'm going to put the quote, troubled kids, and one of those schools was a place called the Dunncroft Approved School for Girls.
Oh, Jesus.
And it was a girls' school. It was for girls that were, deemed to have emotional and behavioral issues. They were sent to live there. This was in the 1970s, by the way.
Nobody gave a shit about girls.
Fact. So over a 5-year period, he had unrestricted, unsupervised access to that whole fucking campus.
No.
Again,
No.
Staying overnight. Why?
Oh my God.
He groomed them with trips to the BBC, come watch me film. And he sexually abused, I'm sure this number is higher, but they're saying 22 girls. And it was everywhere, like in the office, around the entrance to the school, the TV room, the kitchen, the dining room. There were some abuse that took place offsite when he would take them to the BBC. So there was allegedly 13 attacks that happened in his car.
Oh, Jesus.
And again, some of these girls said something, but nobody believed them.
Right.
Or the girls thought,
no one's going to believe me.
No one's going to believe me.
Right. I have emotional problems. I'm high strung, or whatever words they want to use to describe them.
Yes.
I'm damaged goods anyway.
Yes.
What the fuck?
I'm the girl that's in the school for troubled kids. No one's going to believe me.
Or I deserve it, or whatever.
Yes.
That's so hard. That's horrifying.
It is. There's also another school called Northways Residential School. It was also near Leeds. That was another school that worked with quote unquote troubled children. And he would invite those children to his home. Sometimes they would stay overnight. Yeah. He did this kind of stuff at 20 different schools and children's like homes like that throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. One of his victims said that he was evil and sadistic, that he loved inflicting pain and humiliating his victims.
Jesus, on top of everything. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's so fucking upsetting. I'm telling you guys, this one was really hard. This one is the hardest one I've done for What a Creep. Like, I'm going to be so happy when it's done.
Right.
So here's new section, y'all. This is the section I'm calling Why He Was Able to Get Away with This Shit for So Long. So, like I said, many of his victims didn't speak out because they didn't think anyone would believe them. Imagine that. They also were afraid of like being crucified in the media. Like the
How
people
dare
like
you accuse our hero?
Yes. And like saying fucked up shit about them, right? Like you're just this girl from the special school, fuck off. Like you're a troublemaker.
Right. How dare you tarnish the reputation of this wonderful person?
Yeah. And
people
the
still
ones,
do that.
they absolutely still do that. And the ones who did speak up, they were told to shut up or they weren't believed. And at this point, he is a cash cow for the BBC and these hospitals and charities. He raised millions of dollars for them.
Right.
He was a friend of then Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher.
Boo.
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 He was knighted in 1990.
Boo.
Boo. He had a close working relationship with the royals.
Boo.
Including the new king, then Prince Charles. Fuck Prince Charles.
Fuck him.
Yeah, we're going to talk about him someday. In the documentary on Netflix, there's they have like all these like letters and things that Charles wrote to Jimmy Savile.
Okay,
And like
Charles at the desk this first day of work as a king.
Get this away from me!
I don't know how to touch stuff. Oh my God.
What a twat,
So-
as they say in the UK.
So Savile like produced, like he wrote like a PR handbook for the royals and their staff. He wrote a letter. Charles wrote a letter to him asking like how to connect with other parts of the country that the royals just can't connect with. He was seen as a man of the people by the royals. LOL.
Excuse me. Jesus. Well, Andrew sure can relate
Right?
to
And
this asshole.
There's another note from Charles where he's asking Jimmy Savile to meet with the Duchess of York. And I was like she doesn't have enough fucking problems just to put up with that fucking... Ugh. Anyway, he's very, very powerful. So now we're in the early 90s. The BBC, the National Health Service, the Department of Education, so the state, the church, the royals, the military, the nation, everyone is involved with this dude. He's like regarded as a national treasure. Like he's fucking famous. He's super fucking famous. And it seems like the older he got, the more obvious he became about being a fucking creep. You know, he never married. He never had kids. That doesn't make you a creep, by the way. But he was always making quote unquote jokes. Like, you know, she told me she was 16, hardy har har, you know, making jokes about like court cases and like he would refer to himself as a villain and a monster. Like I'm a real villain, I'm a monster, but everyone would just be like, "Oh, Jimmy's hilarious." But he really was.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
He's such a scamp.
Yep. But he really was.
Yeah, no, the
villain
quiet
and a
part out
monster.
loud. Yeah. He got away
Yeah,
with it.
so-
He was laughing in
And
her face.
there's all these like undercurrents. Like people knew there were investigations as far back as 1973, and for years no one did anything about it. It's like Harvey Weinstein. Like it was like an open secret. Everybody knew,
Right.
you know, and here's a couple things that I found. So former like Sex Pistols singer Johnny Lydon, whatever.
Boo.
He said he was.
I think he's an asshole. Sorry.
Yes, you're fine. He was being interviewed on a recorded interview, I should say. It wasn't live, for BBC Radio 1. It was October 1978. And he said, "I'd like to kill Jimmy Savile. I think he's a hypocrite. I bet he's into all kinds of seediness that we all know about, but are not allowed to talk about."
Okay, I didn't know he said that. I agree with that.
Yeah, and he said, "I bet none of this will be allowed out." He was correct. They edited that out of the interview. Later, he put it on like a bonus album as like an alternate track or something. And then in October 2014, by killed, I meant locking him up and stopping him from assaulting young children. I'm disgusted at the media pretending they weren't aware. Like,
yeah, he's right about that.
There was a comedian in 1987. It was a Scottish stand-up comedian named Jerry Sadowitz.
Sure.
Once again, sorry, everybody. He recorded a performance in Edinburgh in which he stated that Jimmy Savile was a pedophile, and the album was never released amid fear of legal action.
Wow.
Like, yeah, in 2007, Jimmy Savile was interviewed by police investigating an allegation of sexual assault that took place in the 70s at that approved school for girls. They dropped it. They said they didn't have sufficient evidence. 5 years later, it's after he's dead, because no one wanted to do anything while he was alive, by the way. It was reported the police didn't even pursue it. They didn't question the staff. They didn't do anything about it.
Sakes. Ugh.
And I mean, basically the same thing happened in 2008. The states of New Jersey police investigated the allegations of sexual assault that had taken place at another like children's home. They talked to him. He threatened to sue them if they went forward. And then they claimed there was no evidence to proceed.
There was just
like
people saying that this shit happened to me, but that wasn't evidence.
Yes.
Which is evidence, by
Yes.
the way. That's testimony.
Yes. But while he was alive, nobody wanted to do shit about it.
Yeah.
Basically.
He made money for people and then.
Yes.
Right. Oh, for
Yeah.
God's sakes.
In 2009, Jimmy Savile did an interview with his own biographer, and he was defending Gary Glitter, who we've done an episode on. He argued that Gary Glitter didn't do anything wrong, that he was being unfairly villainized for watching dodgy films, quote unquote, in the privacy of his own film. Of course, the interview was not published and the recording wasn't released until after he died, because why would we do anything about it while he's living? Like, even in 2009, we're talking about a fucking man in his 80s at this point. A 43-year-old woman was taking a train between Leeds and London, and he fucking put his hand up her skirt.
Gee, ugh.
A fucking dirty old man. He's in his fucking 80s. He's like copping a feel on some woman. He's disgusting. He was super powerful, though, and he could intimidate and silence victims and the police. He had nobody wanted to be like, yeah, I'm going to press charges against the guy who's friends with the prime minister. You know, no.
Right. And the royal family, too. I mean,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah. So he had powerful, influential people in his life. No one dared to touch him. I mean, the truth is, to date, few have been brought to justice for enabling him or covering up for him or properly investigate what he did. Like, there's been no repercussions, really, for this. So there's still quite a bit more, y'all. So hold on. Jimmy Savile, he died October 29th, 2011. That's 2 days before his 85th birthday. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, he had been in the hospital with pneumonia. Boy, bye. You didn't suffer enough, if you ask me.
Right.
But it was a huge deal when he died. And like that's because people didn't know. People didn't know, right? So he had this like fucking gold coffin, and it was like on display in Leeds, and like, you know, and there they had like the last cigar he was smoking, and his fucking books were out, and like people were lining up. It was like the Queen. It was like the Queen died. Like people were like 4,000 people visited to pay tribute, you know, and see his dead body. He was buried at the Woodlands Cemetery in Scarsborough. Sure. And as it was specified in his will, his coffin was inclined, like at an incline of 45 degrees, so that he could see the sea. And there was a huge inscription on the tombstone, and it said, "It was good while it lasted."
Yeah. Ugh.
Gross. Gross. Now, here's the section I'm calling, "And this is how the truth finally came out." So immediately after his death, some reporters, Marion Jones and Liz McKean from the BBC program Newsnight, started investigating these rumors that he sexually abused children. And they got one victim on camera. They talked to a bunch of others who were willing to talk about being abused at the Dunncroft School for Girls and the BBC and the Stoke Mandeville Hospital. Mm-hmm. So the Newsnight team put their story together. This also included a former police detective named Mark Williams Thomas. We're a little bit more about him in a second. They also, during their research, found out about another investigation in 2009 that the Surrey police were doing, but once again, didn't actually pursue it. So they put the story together and they hand it over to the BBC, you know, ready for broadcast on December 7th, 2011. So this would have been less than 2 months after he died. The BBC pulled the story.
What?
Because of course they did. They don't look good in it. They claim that it was purely like the story wasn't ready. Stuff
He's
like
dead.
that.
He can't sue.
Right. But there's also like, you know, behind the scenes like quotes coming out saying, yeah, like they thought it was like in poor taste. He had just died.
Oh, fuck
blah,
him.
blah, blah. And it's seriously, fuck him. So they don't run his story. That former police detective, Mark Williams Thomas, took the story to ITV, and it aired it October 3rd, 2012. And
So
by then
later.
almost a year later, and they did more research. They added things to it. So they actually got 5 women to state that they had been sexually assaulted by him as teenagers. It was also said that Jimmy Savile obtained access to these girls through his television programs, through Top of the Pops, and he did a one called Clunk Click. It ran for 1 season.
Clunk Click?
Yeah, that's what it was called.
Jesus.
I'm like,
Doesn't
I know.
exactly roll off the tongue.
No, it does not. And he also, of course, used his charity work to like get close to people. Some of the other interviews, a former colleague said that Jimmy made no attempt to hide his interest in girls from them. Another said that she walked in on him French kissing an underage girl. One woman said that he sexually assaulted her in 1970 when she was 14.
Ugh.
And that she went to the police and they told her it would be a media circus and refused to do anything about it.
It would have been.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was, yeah.
Jesus.
It was also revealed in that story that the BBC could have broke this story a year earlier, but didn't, because
Right.
it's just what a fucking failure. So by late October, so the story comes out October 3rd. By late October 2012, all these places start their like internal inquiries and reviews. So it's the BBC, the National Health Service, the Prosecution Service, the Department of Health, like all these places start their own investigations. Investigations revealed that abuse by Savile spanned 6 decades. Scotland Yard spoke with 300 potential victims, and that number is now closer to 600.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Isn't this fucking crazy?
In a year, they figured that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They found 73% of the victims were children at the time. The abuse locations included the BBC studios, 28 medical establishments where he raped, sexually abused, sexually assaulted staff patients between the ages of 5 and 75. Did it over several decades. His own great niece said that she was sexually abused by him twice at family gatherings, and family turned their back on it.
Ugh.
His own nephew said that one day he cut school and went to London, and he got lured into like a child abuse, like sex ring party, and his own uncle came in.
Oh, God.
Yeah. It's awful.
Yeah. 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 But they find each other.
They do. Exactly.
Yeah, we were talking about
Yes.
Stanford White last week.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. These
They
pervs
find each other.
Yeah.
So within a month of the scandal coming out, he was revered. And like many places, organizations, like anything that was remotely connected to him had like renamed themselves after him, right? So a lot of them, within a month, they were like, fuck that. And they like took all their shit down and rebranded it. Even his own relatives had his gravestone removed, destroyed, and sent to a landfill. Pretty impressive, actually.
Smart.
His body is still in that cemetery, but it's unmarked. And it has been proposed to have it exhumed and cremated, but apparently that hasn't happened yet. And so there's a whole story about Operation Yew Tree. I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Yewtree.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to save that for a bonus episode or maybe even a follow-up because it's just too much to cover in this, and we've all been through enough at this point. But what happened in that is the Metropolitan Police Department did an investigation into Savile's sex crimes, and they ended up making arrests of like several other like men involved in a child abuse sex ring, basically, and that included Gary Glitter, who we did an episode on. So it's pretty upsetting, and I was like, that's enough.
Right, at some point, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, this is maybe for a bonus or something like that. But it is like one of the things that after the news about Jimmy Savile came out, they started actually doing all these investigations, and they were able to make all these arrests of other people.
Right.
So it's like, you know, they didn't do shit when he was alive, but at least they were able to stop and arrest some people after. So something happened, but it doesn't feel like justice. And
no,
because this fucker got to die of old age after doing something really fucked up for a really long time.
Ugh.
I mean, it's really fucking gross. In the documentary, they talk a lot about how he was Catholic, and that he may have been doing all this charity work as some sort of way to offset all the evil shit he was doing. Like he thought maybe he could still get into heaven because he did all these good things. And I'm like, fuck no, you're going to burn. That dude's going to burn.
No.
If you believe in that shit,
right.
He's going to fucking burn.
No, he's just evil. It was access.
It was access. It's
it was
really
cover
just
and deflection.
Yeah. It's really, really disgusting. I'm glad this dude is off our fucking list. Mm-hmm. Well, and honestly, that's everything that I want to talk about. So that's our creep.
Yeah, let's...
Jimmy Savile.
Okay. Rest in hell, you asshole.
Seriously, I hope you fucking burn.
Okay. Let's take a quick break, Sonia.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
We're going to take a sip of water. We're going to take a quick break, and we will come back, and I'm going to give you a twofer 2 non-creeps
I need it.
to counterbalance this asshole. All
Thank
right.
you.
Okay, Sonia, are you ready for your non-creeps to cleanse the palate?
I'm so ready. Please.
All right, so the first one's going to be for the members of our Facebook group. They seem pretty passionate about this. A lot of people mentioned it. First is going to be Marilyn Monroe, just because we've been talking a lot about Marilyn Monroe. There's the movie Blonde that came out, and it's very controversial.
Not seeing that.
Yeah. Marilyn was not a creep. Marilyn was actually a pretty wonderful person. And if you want to see that, Drunk History had a great episode about Marilyn. And
okay.
she went to Ella Fitzgerald was a struggling jazz singer in New York, and New York was very segregated in the 50s. And Marilyn actually made a deal with the Stork Club and said, if you have Ella Fitzgerald come as your headliner, I will come every single night, sit front and center. You can invite the press, and I will just take every picture you need, and I'll glam myself up, and you can invite everybody. And Ella Fitzgerald never had to worry about a gig after that. Her
That's
career was
amazing.
set. And Marilyn did a lot of things like that. She was much stronger than people give her credit for. Yes, she had addiction issues. She also had people, doctors that wrote her prescriptions that shouldn't have. I mean, and a lot of people went through that. So I don't want to. So we want to say, I want to give her better credit than that movie gave her credit for. And also, excuse me, we lost a comedy goddess.
Yeah, we did.
And this I hope, I don't know if she went around the world, and I don't know if this is a Gen X thing, but Judy Tenuta.
She's fucking hilarious.
Judy Tenuta was a fucking hilarious comedian. She passed away a couple of days ago. The Love Goddess. She was, and I would say she was from the 80s and 90s. She had kind of her peak. I love
I used to love her stand-up.
Fucking loved her. They had an HBO special, and it was Ellen DeGeneres and Judy Tenuta, Paula Poundstone.
Yes.
Liz Winstead. There was a
Oh
bunch
my
of
God,
people.
I had this. I recorded it
I
on
did too.
HBO.
And
Yes.
Judy would just come out and she would greet the audience and saying, "Hi, pigs." And then she would play the accordion.
I remember she would chew gum and spit
Oh.
it. And she would spit it in the audience and be like, "Crawl for it, pigs."
She was so funny. She used to do these Diet Dr. Pepper commercials and say, "Sometimes you have to sweat like a sow to be a..." She was just a unique voice. Really, I didn't know she was married to Emo Phillips for a minute.
That's
a pull.
That seems like a sitcom to me. That's weird.
She fooled people. When she died, people didn't know how old she was. They printed all these different ages for her. She was 72. But they thought she was 65, and then she actually put her age as she was born in 1965, which is LOL. No, Judy, that's not. But I love that she tried to get away with that. She was beautiful and funny and just weird and just really leaned into that. And you could see these specials. Go on YouTube and look up Judy Tenuta, especially her 1987 special, and that just
So
start
funny.
there. It holds up. I was completely cracking up out loud. She had fuck cancer. She had uterine cancer.
Fuck cancer.
And she was also very early on a supporter of the LGBTQ community. And I want to just name some of her albums because let me just get that here. So she had Buy This Pigs. This is some of her albums. Attention Butt Pirates and Lesbertarians, live at the CSW Gay Pride Festival. In Goddess We Trust, The Power of Judaism, and my favorite, A Space Goddessy. She just was she was really, really bizarre and funny. She was a powerful, smart funny woman. She had her own voice. She did her own thing. She led life on her own terms. And I just think was so special. And it's like the world's a little less interesting without her in it.
Yeah.
And so much funnier, more interesting than any Jimmy Savile or any of these basic bitches that are like him.
Fact.
You know, somebody like her who's truly unique and funny and different and doesn't hurt anybody and never, you know what I mean? That's the kind of person that should be honored more. And I just, I think like more Judys, please, more Tenutas.
Yes.
Get the Savile out of your brain. Go to YouTube, look up Judy Tenuta clips, look up a Marilyn Monroe movie. They're all fabulous. Any one of them, you'll be fine. Like, support them.
You don't need to watch Blonde.
Yeah, don't look blonde. No, not Blonde. A Marilyn movie, a true Marilyn Monroe movie that she was in.
Watch, you can watch like Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. I was like, that movie's great.
It's a great movie. You know, Don't Bother to Knock is a really early fun one of hers that I love. What's the one she did with Jack Lemmon? I forgot this the other day too.
Oh, Some Like It Hot.
Some Like It Hot totally holds up. Very funny movie. Watch those. You don't need to. Or Bus Stop. That's a really interesting one. That's like a latter day work. Or Judy Tenuta. Look up her specials on YouTube. She was funny as shit. She did Howard Stern all the time. She just like, you know, and look up on Twitter. You can look up all the people doing the tributes to her. She was just she was one of a kind and really great. And more Judys and more Marilyns, less of the Jimmys.
Yeah, fuck this guy.
Fuck the guy.
Seriously,
Fuck that
I'm
guy.
so glad to have him off our list. He is real trash, and y'all have been asking for this one for a long time, so I hope I didn't disappoint.
Of course not.
Boy, he fucking sucks.
He sucks. Next week will be a new creep. And just to say today, if you like the sound of our voices, we also co-host a show called Dorking Out. It's October as we are recording this. We're doing a month of scary movies.
My favorite.
We are good friends with the people over at F This Movie, and they're doing Scary Movie Month there. So we decided we're going to hop onto that and also do scary movies. So, Sonia, tell them what we're covering next.
This is Margot's request. We're going to do The Sentinel, which was filmed in Brooklyn.
Right. My book is coming out called Filmed in Brooklyn, and this movie was filmed in Brooklyn in 1976, released 1977. Get that version. It has Burgess Meredith, Ava Gardner, Christina Rains, Jerry Orbach, Chris Sarandon.
I can't wait.
Beverly D'Angelo.
Look at this cast. Come on.
It's bananas. Christopher Walken is in this movie.
What? It has a Christopher Walken to
fuck.
burn.
I mean, and he has like 2 lines. He's just, but it's like,
love it.
It's fantastic.
I can't wait.
It's creepy. It's glorious. It's really great. So that's coming up. And Sonia, let me just say this before I go. If you have suggestions for creeps and non-creeps, and especially for non-creeps, we always need suggestions for that. Reach us out in all those places we said at the top of the show. We love it when you use the Annie Potts gift. We got one from Ghostbusters. Also, once again, our email is whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com. Sonia, where can they find you?
You can find me at thesoniashow.com and The Sonia Show on Twitter and Instagram and the TikTok. Where can people find you, Margot?
You can find me at Brooklyn Fit Chick for Twitter and Instagram. My site is brooklynfitchick.com, and I am at Margot Donahue on the TikTok. Thank you once again for listening. We'll be back soon with a new episode. Stay safe. Don't be a creep.
Creep!
Thank you for listening to us talk about creeps. You can follow us at What a Creep Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
But don't follow us too closely.
You can email us your creepy stories at whatacreeppodcast@gmail.com.
But please keep your dick pics to yourself.